Yeah, I was born in a town called Ludlow, Massachusetts. It's about an hour west of Boston. It's kind of a mill town, historic mill town, New England mill town, I guess you call it. So when I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So around that time, Ludlow is just working class, basic working class family. My father worked in a company that made cases for Scud missiles, so military contracts basically. My mother was a nurse. Pretty much my childhood was me and my brother, I have a twin brother, playing in the local forest, BMX, making BMX bikes, riding in the forest, kind of exploring outside. And basically we just didn't come home. We just stay out there all day and explore the woods.
So like middle school and high school, how was that? Or were you in Ludlow for that?
Middle school was my junior. I ended up going to private school. My parents I got a scholarship to go to private school. Running track and playing lacrosse. Yeah, I stayed in that private school till I was 8th grade. Then I got kicked out and ended up going to public high school.
Why'd you get kicked out?
Several things. Probably shouldn't mention. By the time I was senior year or junior year in high school, my parents really got sick of it. Sent me to a halfway house. So spent a little time in the halfway house. They want to scare me, but it didn't work. So I was always at odds with my parents, trying to, basic teenage shit, same as everybody else. There's nothing to do in this town, so all we did was drive around drinking and smoking pot. Normal teenage suburban life. I went into the Air Force when I turned 21. The night before I went into the Air Force, my friends were doing coke, smoking coke and doing lines in the basement. And next day I was going to basic training, right? So I needed to get away from that crowd. I had met a girl who was our translator for our team, so she used to just kind of come around with us and help us out with translation. And we all went back to Hawaii. I stayed a little bit longer, but the rest of the group went back, and then I went back later. And after Hawaii, I moved back to went back to Boston area, take care of some financial stuff. But I always planned to come back. So I was dating this girl for like a year after, and I figured, okay, let's go back to Japan. So I go back to Japan, and we're just like, where do we live? Let's just go to Tokyo. We had no connection at all. We're just like, Tokyo is a better place to be. So we had some artist friends, and we met them for coffee at Nanatsumori. It's a little, what they call kiseten, Japanese coffee shop, traditional coffee shop. We met there, and we were just walking around Koenji, and our friend left, and we were just sitting on the steps of Dope Soul Tracks. It's been there forever. It's a black music bar, and we're just sitting there and thinking about, okay, where do we want to live? So we're walking around Koenji, and we go to Asagaya, and we're like, okay, Asagaya looks cool. We'll settle here. So we just get an apartment, and next thing you know, it's 20 years later, and I'm still living in Tokyo, still living in the same area. Part of the time we were living in Shinkoenji, part of the time Asagaya. So yeah, that's it. That's how we got here. Yeah, we're under the tracks in a place called Koenji Street, actually. It's a Shotengai, like a shopping street. A lot of little bars and stuff, and drinking spots. And this is the kind of place where people run when it rains. This is a good place to hang out. The acoustics are really good here, so a lot of street musicians play here. So, yeah. So I spent many nights here, like till 5 in the morning, taking photos of people and hanging out with friends and everything. Acting, I kind of fell into acting. I did one modeling job for a photographer friend of mine in Osaka for some dental convention or something. And the money was pretty decent for like an hour's work. And so I was like, okay, when I come to Tokyo, I just started looking up agencies, and I got into doing what's called saigen dramas, which are basically reenactment dramas. And eventually get into commercials, promotional videos, better jobs, right? So I've been doing that for 20 years, the whole time I've been here. I did one job for a game app. I was a zombie, but that was just for a promotional video. And then the other major job I did was Capcom for Nikolai for the Resident Evil remake number 3. So yeah, I was the villain, the guy who had the vaccine. So that one was just, I didn't even have to audition for that one. That one, they just had 2 of us. They picked 2 of us from my manager's website. They just said one or the other, and then I just got it somehow. So it was Resident Evil 3. Yeah.
And the character you played?
The character I played was Nikolai, who is the Russian. Yeah. What do I want to say? What's the word? Not the hero. The can't think of the English word now.
Villain?
The villain, but yeah. I was trying to think of the.
Can people see? Is this game still in distribution, or?
Game's still in distribution. It will be forever. So
Yep.
immortalized in that. And yeah, I'm just the face and the body. So I didn't actually do the motions and the voice. They picked someone else to do that. I'm not sure why. But yeah, so just my body, my face.
So I guess that kind of brings you to photography, which is what I mostly know you for.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I've always taken photos as a hobby, traveling and stuff, just like everybody else, right? But lately, I started feeling this need in Koenji to kind of document the culture. I saw things changing over the last 20 years I've been here. I've seen everything changing. And then I started regretting not taking the photos because things just should be documented. I just started to feel this need to document. And I had always been taking some photos of Koenji, but not so serious. In the last few years, I didn't even know what street photography was. I didn't know it was called that. And I started getting connected with other street photographers, and I just started feeling this sudden this urgency to start documenting more seriously. So that's kind of steered my life in the last maybe 3 years to kind of really get serious, and even when I don't want to go out and shoot, to just go out, spend more time in Koenji and kind of go deeper, kind of get really close to people, and yeah. Man, the thing is, like Van Gogh said, I paint so that I don't have to think. And I think that is one of the major reasons why I take photos. It's when I'm taking photos, I'm really not thinking. It's very instinctive. I see something, I'm kind of ready with the camera. The camera's ready. And my mind is just kind of on a swivel. Like, I'm just kind of walking around. I'm not always sure what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, of course, composition. I'm looking for, I guess the word is tableau, right? It's a moment, a scene that when people are moving all together on the street, you can kind of, there's a story. That one frame is a story that will explain the whole, the more a narrative for what that area is about at that time. It may change in 5 minutes. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that scene that's going to tell me the story of what that place is about. Sometimes you get attached to a person and you just kind of follow them around. Not like a dog, but you're with them. You try to get into their world and you try to spend time with them. And you just kind of be around for that moment when they're going to do something that's uniquely them, that'll kind of describe their personality. And there are some people like that. I don't want to mention specific people because there's lots of different people like that. And you kind of feel this energy about to happen. So you're just waiting for that one moment or a couple moments, and you just wait. You're like, like a fly on the wall. You're waiting for something to happen. So that's kind of the process. You're there. You have to be there to take the shot. You can't set it up. You can't, or I don't like to set it up. People do that. They set up shots, but I like the candid shots. So the candid is most important for me. Waiting for that one moment that's going to tell me, that's Koenji. That's totally Koenji. I mean, it's not just Koenji. I'm taking photos other places, but the way I take photos in other places is totally different because I'm more connected here. I know what was Koenji. I know what is Koenji, and there is kind of this stream of characteristics about if Koenji was a person, if Koenji was a being, a living being, then what are the characteristics about that person? What is Koenji like? And when you lived here for 20 years, you start to pick up on some of those unique character traits. And you just kind of recognize them when you see them as a photographer. You recognize them. You don't think about it. It's hard to articulate sometimes, but when you see it, you know it, and you just have to act. You have to just instinctively react. So you're just waiting for those moments. They're like, oh yeah, that's Koenji, and you just take that shot. Yeah, so hopefully my photos kind of can show when you look at all of them together, because when you look at one photo, it's not enough to tell a story. For me, it's more like documentary style photography, where like the old war photographers, it's a series of shots, more than one shot. There are some famous photographers that's their thing. It's more of a series of photos that tell the story. So when you see 5 or 6 photos or 10 photos, you can kind of see, okay, that's the story. If you just see one photo, that's not my thing. One photo. It has to be a series together that kind of unfolds. It's a moment that unfolds. And that tells a broader story of what Koenji is about on a daily basis. So you could see one moment in Koenji and be like, oh, that's the kind of place that Koenji is, or at least was. And someday it's going to change, and it is changing fast. So that's the story I'm looking for. Before it changes, this moment in time, what is Koenji? Yeah, that's it.